This is Alex Rodriguez from SecureIdeas/Professionally Evil, and today I'm going to go over the fifth week of the Bash trick series. Well, technically the sixth, but 050. And this is going to be about, as you can see, Bash keyboard shortcuts. So I like to use my keyboard as much as possible and not have to use my mouse at all. One of the things that I use is a tiling window manager called i3, and to go along with that, I also enjoy Vim key bindings and Vim keyboard shortcuts. So as you can tell, I use Vim, and also with my Bash setup or my shell setup, I use Vim key bindings as well, and that's going to be one of the topics that we're going to discuss about today. So let's hop into the code. To 05. Go ahead and split this. So, as you can see, I'm inside my Vagrant environment. And just really quick, why is this important? We've got compounding on things that we've learned. We're going to show a few different commands from previous examples or previous weeks that we've used to explore our Bash environment, and so that's what this week is going to start to kind of compound on how we can use those to identify where we're at. The second reason is efficiency or efficient exercise. Here, let me make this a little bit bigger for you all. Efficient experience is a more fun experience. So if you can be able to move quickly through your terminal without having to actually have it be less efficient and more cumbersome, then it's going to be a lot more enjoyable experience, because you're not having to waste your time trying to figure out what the last echo command is that you just did. Well, I mean, not echo, but previous X command that we're going to be able to show you how to quickly identify. And then also it's cumbersome at first just because it's a little bit of a learning curve to try and force yourself to remember what the keyboard shortcuts are, but in the end it's rewarding because you end up gaining efficiencies, and also the terminal experience for me specifically has just been more enjoyable since I've figured out how to do this. So alright, now we're going to go ahead and get into the examples. And as always, the prereq is the Bash setup video. So once you follow that, we're in our Bash environment here. So I've kind of shown this specific key binding before, but it's called CTRL L. And as I'll show you in a little bit, that clears the screen. So we're going to do PE bash. Once we get into our Bash environment, we're going to go ahead and do help to go ahead and show all the different options again. And as we've talked about before, this is how you can figure out what each individual built-in Bash command does. So one of the ones that, or the one that we're going to be using this week, is called set, and we did this in the Bash environment week. We talked about the set command. So we're just kind of recapping right now, doing a quick recap. One of the things that we're going to go ahead and do next is just do set to go ahead and list out. These are a bunch of different Bash environment variables that are already set. So now we're going to do set tech O, and the tech O flag, as you saw from the help set command, is these are some option names that are kind of an extended feature set of Bash. So we do set tech O. It will list out all the different options that are enabled, and the specific options we're looking for are these. So we have two different modes for Bash for being able to navigate the Bash. It's actually the read line function for Linux. So we have emacs mode, which is by default, and then we have VI or Vim mode. which is the one that I prefer more, just because I'm more acquainted with the actual Vim key bindings. But since the Emacs mode is default, we're going to go ahead and go over what the keyboard shortcuts for the Emacs environment is. So if we go ahead and as you can see, we're in Emacs mode because it says Emacs on and Vim off. So just to show you how these can kind of toggle, you see how I switched to set tech OVI and it turned off the Emacs mode. Now we're going to go back to here, and Emacs mode is now back on. So we're going to go ahead and just type in some gibberish, and if we want to delete everything from the cursor to the beginning of the line, so say we're at the end of the line like how we are now, even with spaces and words, we can do Control U, and that'll just delete the whole line, or all the text on our line. So next we can do just a bunch of random text, and then if we, as you can read in the comments, the Control W, delete the previous work on the command line before the cursor. So it essentially deletes a full word each time you do Control W. The Control L is the one that I've talked about in the past, so just kind of take up some screen real estate, and if you do Control L, then as you can see it clears the screen terminal, and this is really useful especially for whenever you do presentations instead of having to type clear every time. Being able to just hit Control L to clear your screen and actually be able to whatever command you're about to execute, you can leave it there and still hit Control L and it'll keep it all right there and also clear the screen. So it's really useful if you're doing a presentation, your screen is just kind of gobbledygooked up with different commands and results from your commands, and you can do Control L to just quickly clear out your screen and make it apparent what the results from the current command is. So next we're going to do this, and this is specifically about moving your cursor. So if you want to do Control A, it'll jump your cursor to the very beginning of the line. And the one thing with this is this specific command will actually clash whenever you're using the terminal multiplexer of screen. So that's one thing that whenever you're doing these different keyboard shortcuts you have to be aware of, is that sometimes they can collide with other built-in functionality of either your terminal or your window manager, or as I was saying, other programs. So the Control A specifically will collide whenever you're trying to do any type of screen session, because Control A is the meta sequence for the screen command. So just something to be aware of. And then if you want to jump your cursor to the end of the line, you can hit Control E, and that'll jump it to the end. Now, this is my favorite command. It has saved me so much time instead of having to do the history command and then search through all of my history to identify the name of a command that I've used previously. I can instead do Control R and then say I'm searching for the help command. For the help command, if I just hit HE, it brings me up to the first word that matches the keys that I've typed so far. So say I don't want to do just the help set command. I can hit Control R again and it'll go to the next instance of where HE matches in my history. So this is extremely useful for whenever you're trying to remember a really long command And I actually sometimes, whenever I create commands that are really long, I do a comment at the end of them and leave a specific sequence of characters to help bring me exactly to that command whenever I need to execute it. So an example of that is I use AWS CLI, and I've got a specific command that I use for invalidating CloudFront cache. So I have typed out the different websites that I invalidate the cache for. So one of the websites that we do that for is our blog. So all I have to do is hit Control R, and then I search for blog.secure or .s, and it'll bring me up to that cache invalidation command for CloudFront. So it's a really extremely powerful functionality of the bash shell, and specifically about being able to identify and reuse your history in a very short amount of key sequences. So this has helped me. Like if you take one thing out of this, this is the command to take out. It's amazing. And then the Control S has worked for some terminals for me. Specifically on this terminal, it wasn't working. So I just left it in there. I linked to all the different resources below as to where I found all of these commands. Really quick before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and jump into Vi mode real quick, and to help you visualize what keys I'm pressing, I've got a program that should display it on this screen. So some of my character sequences are going to show up. I'm going to try and say them as I'm typing them. I am very used to the Vi mode, so that's why I'm bringing up this application, so that way I don't have to say exactly what I'm doing every single time. But that's the escape key. I'm sorry it's not rendering properly. So I took myself out of normal Vi mode, which would be to go ahead and type. And then we're going to be able to hit any type of like navigation sequence. So I can hit K to go up, and I can just keep hitting K, and it'll keep going up. And then I can hit J to go down, and then let's see. Remember, these are some of the commands I was running at the very beginning. If I didn't want to have to hit K that many times, I could just do Control R and search for set, and hit Control R again, and the Control R searching works inside of Vi mode as well. So one of the drawbacks with, also, sorry, that it says Control_L, that's my left control key. And this is my right control key. So that's just explanation of that. So one drawback for Vi mode is that you can't use the clear screen command. So if I do the Control L like this, it doesn't work. And I've got another resource down here that I have another resource down there that'll go ahead and show you how to set that mode for Vi, and I've used it in some other my personal configuration files as well. So whenever you get a chance, if you want to, you can go through all the different resources and identify what works best for you. Really quick, this resource, I left comments for everything. It has nicely formatted things, but some things don't work. So specifically, whenever I was trying it out, the Control/ doesn't work. So if I do Control ? It undoes it, but then if I do, or yeah, like that. So so some of them don't work. You'll have to play around with some, with most of them. just to make sure that they work specifically for your terminal editor or your terminal, and make sure that they don't collide with anything that you have in your environment. But one of the first resources that I listed was the Hashcrack book, and this is actually what got me down the path of trying to figure out the different key sequences. In his book, he's got a subsection for the terminal command cheat sheet where he lists out I think it's these first commands, or well, key bindings that you can do inside of your terminal. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. And I tried to identify as many as I could with the basic default setup, so that way whenever I go into a server or something like that, I don't have to alter my bash environment to set specifically for Vim mode, because that might mess someone up. So I just try to use the default keyboard shortcuts that's in Emacs mode. Alright, I think that's everything. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section, and you can always reach out to me on Twitter. And then also feel free to try and suggest any content as well. I always like hearing feedback from people, so I hope you have a good day. Take care.